Am I wrong for blaming myself for my father's death? When I was younger, my father and I were very close. I was daddy's little girl. Me and him did everything together. But one night, everything changed when he invited his friends over. They were drinking and watching a sports game on TV. It was the middle of the night and I was asleep, and him and one of his friends came into my room and they took advantage of me. I woke up when I felt their hands on me, but I pretended to be asleep the entire time because I wanted to think that I was dreaming. I was only 8 at the time, so I didn't understand why he did it, but I knew that it was wrong. Our relationship stayed the same for a while after, and nothing like that ever happened again, and we never talked about what happened either. But once I hit a certain age, I realized how wrong what he did actually was. I couldn't look at him the same anymore, and he noticed my feelings towards him were changing. We started arguing a lot, which we never used to do. I couldn't even hug him without feeling disgusting. One night when we were arguing, I yelled at him, "You and your friend touched me when I was only 8 years old. My life would be better if you were dead." He took his own life the next morning, and I can't help but think that it was all my fault. If you are wondering whether or not to hook up with your ex-boyfriend, here is a sign not to. One day, my ex hit me up again. Let's call him Jaden. He hit me up and he asked me if I was single. I said yes. He told me that he was single too, and honestly, I missed him and he asked me to hang out one day. I was super excited to see him again, and I was really looking forward to building our relationship over. He came over to my place and we talked for a bit. We watched movies, we cuddled, we kissed, and we did other stuff. The other stuff went on for hours, and I mean hours, because we had not talked to each other for 3 whole years. We broke up a really long time ago, and once we reconnected, we could not keep our hands off of each other. We cuddled and watched movies for the rest of the night, and eventually I drifted off to sleep. I woke up in the middle of the night to him getting dressed, and I asked why he was leaving and where he needed to go because I really wanted him to stay the night. He says he can't miss this wedding that he's supposed to go to early in the morning, and I understood, and I asked him who was getting married and to tell them congrats. He said thanks. It's my wedding. And then he left.
Storytime on how I got both of my best friends cheating on me with my boyfriend. Yes, both of them. So at the time I was entering college, and one of my best friends went to the same school as me. My other best friend went to the same school as my boyfriend. And our schools were close. We were only like 10 minutes away from each other. Homecoming is when things started to get fishy. I asked my boyfriend if he wanted to come out to our homecoming games, and he said that he was busy. Then of course I asked my best friend, but she said she had cheerleading practices because she was trying to become a cheerleader. I don't know, they just always seem busy doing something around the same time. So then the holiday comes up and I visit my boyfriend's family for Christmas. I don't know, something in me just told me to look at his phone, and he was talking to my best friend, the one he went to school with, and the conversation was just too flirty. So I talked to my other best friend about it that I went to the same school with. And she was like, "Oh, I always knew something was weird about them too." Of course, confronted my boyfriend about it, and he said nothing was going on. So I decided to play reverse psychology on my best friend. Come back for part 2. Part 2 on how I caught my boyfriend cheating on me with 2 of my best friends. Like I said, I confronted my boyfriend about it, and he pretended there was nothing going wrong. So I went to my best friend about it, and I kind of did like a reverse psychology thing on her. I told her that my boyfriend told me everything that was going on. And I was like, "Did y'all even use protection?" Not really knowing what's really going on. And she was like, "I'm sorry, it was only a one-time thing." And that she was just drunk one night. And I was like, "Sis, you practically told on yourself because I was joking." And then she kind of like snitched on my other best friend. She was like, "I wasn't the only one, you know." And of course I was like, "What you mean?" And she said a couple months back when we were in high school that my other best friend had slept with him also. The whole situation was just messy. I ended up cutting off my whole circle. And later on that freshman year, my ex-boyfriend started dating my ex-best friend.
Storytime, I was the toxic best friend. So a little background information, I was 16 and a sophomore in high school. And at the beginning of the year, I met this girl who we're going to call Riley. Riley and I hit it off straight away. Like a week after knowing each other, she knew everything about me and I knew everything about her. Well, then she tells me about this guy that she's talking to, who we're going to call Jay. She said that they would hook up sometimes and he would text her sometimes. But she said that I couldn't tell anybody because he said that it had to be a secret. So I tried telling her that he sounded like a fuckboy, but she decided she was going to do whatever she wanted, and I was like, okay. So fast forward to the end of the year, he adds me on Snapchat. Okay, don't get me wrong, he was really hot, but I had my own thing going on, so I really didn't pay that much attention to him. And I thought he maybe added me on Snapchat to be like, "Oh my god, I really like your best friend." And then I also was caught between a rock and a hard place. Do I tell my best friend that the guy that she likes just added me on Snapchat? Or do I lie to her? Well, I was going to tell her until I got a Snapchat from him, like for part 2. Part 2 about how I was the toxic best friend. So like I said, I didn't know whether I should tell her that he added me on Snapchat or if I should. And I was going to until I got a Snapchat from him saying, "Hey, you're really pretty. I think we should talk sometime." So I ended up telling her about it because I felt really bad. And she was like, this is why I can't trust girls. Like, you need to unadd him right now. Like, fucking block him. And I'm like, I didn't even do anything. Like, what the fuck? So whatever. I end up blocking him. It's fine. Until he texts me one day. And he's like, hey, it's Jay. I think you blocked me on Snapchat, LOL. And him and I had talked a little bit in school, and I kind of started to like him. Well, fast forward, him and I ended up hooking up a few times. We were talking a lot, and he hadn't been texting Riley as much. Well, the one night while I was sleeping over at her house, my phone was going off a lot, and I didn't think to delete any of the messages, like for part 3. Part 3 about how I was the toxic best friend. So like I said, I was sleeping over her house the one night, my phone was blowing up, and she knows my password and everything, and I stupidly did not delete the text messages between Jay and I. And I kid you not, I wake up to a slap across the face. It felt like she slapped me with her fist, and it looked like it too because I had a black eye. So I woke up and she's like, what the fuck? Like, I hate you so much. Like, why would you do this? And I look down and she has my phone right in her hand on the text messages with Jay. And I ended up feeling really bad because she started crying, saying that, like, I knew that she liked him a lot. And I also knew the reason why he wasn't texting her as much. Well, then she ran downstairs and she told her mom. And the next thing I know, I had her mom, and her 3 other sisters screaming at me. And then I got blocked by Jay because she wasn't supposed to know, and she leaked his nudes.
I'm the asshole for wanting a child-free wedding, but still allowing my daughter to be there. My fiance and I are getting married in October, and while getting ready to send our invitations out, my future mother-in-law saw that I had a note stating that no children under 14 are allowed to attend the ceremony and the reception. There is also a note stating that if they need accommodations for a babysitter to let me know, because I'm hiring my usual babysitter for my reception and she's able to take on up to about 6 kids. My mother-in-law asked what I'm going to do about my daughter when I said she's going to be in the ceremony as the flower girl because she is 5. And then after the ceremony, she's going to be with her babysitter. My mother-in-law asked if I thought it was going to be unfair, and that if I'm absolutely saying no children under 14, then my child who is under 14 shouldn't be allowed to go either. Well, of course, my mother-in-law went to both sides of the family, and I guess that quite a few people are upset that I'm making rules, but not enforcing it on my own child. Am I the asshole? Should I be enforcing the rules with my child? I also feel like it's my wedding, and I feel like my child is well enough behaved.
Am I the asshole for telling my boyfriend I had no family? My family is alive, but I did not tell my boyfriend that. When I was younger, my life was really hard, and my parents were very abusive. When I started dating my boyfriend, he was amazing, and still is. And I don't have any contact with my family. Whenever the conversation would come up about my family, I would always just say, oh, they're not around, and I think he always took that as that they were deceased, when really they were just a couple towns over. I haven't talked to them, and I really don't plan on it. Anyways, I get a call from my mom, which I haven't gotten one in years, and my boyfriend picks it up for me. He talks to her, and she basically talks to him about how I left them, and basically just blamed it all on me. My boyfriend is now super upset with me, saying that I lied to him and how it wasn't cool. I tried to explain to him that they basically were dead to me, but he just doesn't understand. So I'm just wondering, am I the asshole here?
Storytime, would you call this cheating? So a little background information, I was 16 and a sophomore in high school, and I was dating this guy who we're gonna call Tom, right? When we started dating, everything was super good, but a little bit into our relationship, I started to get the ick. Anything and everything he would do would literally irritate the hell out of me. So at that point, I told him that we should take a break. So we did. Well, while we were on this little break, I decided to go out with my cousin the one night, and she had brought this guy who she was talking to at the time. We're gonna call him Jake. Jake and I had the same classes in school, but we never really talked to each other. Well, I started to get to know him throughout the night, and I realized we had a lot in common. I felt like he was flirting with me, so I decided to flirt with him. When we got home, I had told her how much I really liked Jake. We ended up FaceTiming and falling asleep on the phone together. We all hung out again the next day, and I invited him back to my house, like for part 2. Would you consider this cheating? Part 2. So like I said, we all decided to hang out again the next day. It was really cold out, so I invited everybody back to my house. And when we got back to my house, we were watching horror films. And I was cuddling next to Jake on the couch. And listen, I wanted to kiss him really bad, but Tom and I had just gotten done with our so-called break. So I decided to be loyal and not do that. Well, a few days after Jake and I talking, I realized that I wanted to be with him and not Tom. So I decided to end things with Tom, and now Jake and I have been together for a year and 2 months, and we couldn't be happier. But every time that we bring up Tom, Jake always tells me that I cheated on him. Would you consider what I did cheating?